I don't. Hold on. I don't normally like to watch these either, but this whoever they are, they're doing a good job because they put up a lot of shit on some just silly ass criminals. And this says 4 Disney employees arrested in Polk County, human traffic. Well, let's see. Guess we'll have to turn this on to this. Ding dong. And it all started with Operation March Sadness 2, 2022, on the 8th of March. Now, we don't think basketball should be able to dominate March by itself, so we have our own bracket, but instead of brackets of winners, we have brackets of losers. And we're going to go over and tell you some of the absolute, not only sadness, but craziness that we saw during this last operation. But I am eternally grateful for our police chiefs because we wouldn't be able to do this unless we all work together. And my fantastic detectives that work so very hard. And certainly our counselors because they... Well, let's start with Mr. Finley. Mr. Finley is not involved in this from a human trafficking / prostitution operation. But we hit a grand slam in that we also found child sex predators. And he's the first child sex predator that we identified. He's 39 years of age. He's a handyman. He's from Mulberry.
Oh, he's not too handy no more.
And he traveled to our undercover location thinking he was going to engage a very young child for sex. Newsflash, it wasn't a very young child, it was a group of detectives. He's been charged as a result for traveling, for resisting arrest. That's right, he ran from us. He didn't want to go to jail. He had meth. He was also charged with attempted lewd battery and transmission of some very ugly stuff that he thought was going to a 13-year-old child.
Oh.
So it would have been a grand slam week for all of our resources and efforts if we'd have just gotten Timothy Finley, who thought he was traveling to meet a child. It's pretty nervy if you think about it. He was showing up at the child's residence when he thought mom and dad weren't there. But he wasn't alone. Then there's Shannon Johnson.
Oh my God.
He's from Orlando. You know, it's interesting, the Orlando stations aren't here today. They should be. Because they got a lot of these problems over in Orlando, and the community over there needs to be made aware of it. He thought he was communicating with a 13-year-old child.
What's up,
He
kitty?
wanted to be her daddy. He wanted to have different kinds of sex with what he thought was a 13-year-old child. He works at a warehouse. He was charged with traveling, attempted lewd battery, transmission of photos of himself, nude photos, you know what I mean? And he didn't have any children himself, but he wanted to play this game of daddy. That's right, he has a criminal history. And when we arrested him, he said, "You got me. You're right. We got him." So if we'd arrested 2 child predators, that would have been a grand slam week. But we got this guy's from Gainesville. He's employed in construction. He did not travel, but he communicated with what he thought was a 14-year-old child online and said, "Don't tell the cops." And then he sent videos and stills of himself doing things an adult should never do in the presence of a child or publicly or recorded for public consumption. Nasty stuff.
Now remember, all the Democrats, or whoever, all the handlers that are trying to get the children to learn all this stuff at school, let's teach the kindergartners about sex. This is why they want to do that.
Rose here, Jody Rose, is a nasty, nasty guy. He's
Nasty
36 years
bastard,
old.
Jody Rose.
So we traveled to Gainesville, we had the Alachua Sheriff's Office travel for us to get him. When we arrested him, he said, it's just a misunderstanding. Maybe a misunderstanding on his part. It's not a misunderstanding on our part. He was sending nasty videos and photographs to children.
I told this woman that was sending me pictures.
I'm like, how do you know that I'm not a kid? Why are you sending me pictures? I didn't give anybody my fucking phone number. I didn't give anybody shit. So I'm like, and no, I'm not fucking going. I'm not playing that game. That's why I don't like all this internet shit. You can't even meet a real woman without them trying to ensnare you by putting some shit. Now these guys are these are the actual people that need to be in jail. But you can't even fuck around with this internet and meet nobody and be all fucking funky flirty. You can't do that no more because of motherfuckers like this.
No criminal history up until now, but now he's got 11 felony charges, so he made up for lost time with his arrest. That would have been a grand slam if we'd only gotten 3. Then there's Xavier Jackson.
Oh,
He's
not
27.
Xavier.
He thought he was chatting with a 14-year-old, and he sent photos of himself doing things that's totally inappropriate. He did not travel, so once again, the orange
glitching,
and traveled to arrest him, where he was charged with 3 counts of harmful material and 1 count of unlawful communication. Oh, did I mention that he just happens to be a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney? You think there's a few children around there? That's right. I didn't stutter. He was a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney and was bragging about that. So we were able to arrest 4 predators in this operation. This is huge. 4 arrests of this magnitude in a week is simply remarkable. But let's move on. These guys weren't predators, but they all have something in common with the last arrest. They work for Disney. So you have Wilkeson Fadell. He's 24. He lives in Orlando. He thought he was coming for sex. He's been a Disney employee for 4 years, and he works at the Cosmic Restaurant in Tomorrowland.
Oh.
Except now he is in the county jail if he hasn't made bond yet. And then there's Shahab Malav, 27. He's a software developer for Disney.
Oh.
He's worried because he's here on a work visa from India. He thought he was coming to have sex with 2 ladies. Surprise. Once again, undercover detectives. Then there's Ralph Lease. He's 45. He lives in Winter Garden. He's an IT employee for Disney. He's been there about 4 years, and he's married. So I'm sure Disney's not pleased. I bet his wife's not pleased, but we're pleased that we arrested him. I'm going to tell you about a trafficker. It's not often we arrest traffickers at the undercover site. but we did. And normally when we arrest traffickers at the undercover site, it's a male. Due to Tiffany Nash. She was the trafficker of a young lady. Tiffany's 32 years of age. Why she's not been busy committing crime, because she has 61 previous criminal charges, 41 of them felonies and 20 as misdemeanors. She's the manager of the Kentucky Fried Chicken in Orlando. Now, I just don't believe I'd want any finger-licking good chicken that she touched. Just saying. What she does is she would set up the deal. And then she would force this young lady, this victim, to come along. This deal was for $300. If this lady were lucky, she would get $20. So the lady, the victim, Ubered over, followed by Tiffany to make sure that the deal went right, and Tiffany got her money. As soon as we took the victim down, ostensibly for an arrest, this wonderful team determined she's a victim. So she's not criminally charged, and she's not up here on this board because she's immediately turned over and treated as a victim, not a criminal suspect in an event. So Tiffany's been charged with human trafficking, deriving proceeds, possession of cocaine, possession of meth, possession of paraphernalia, and guess what? She's not managing the Kentucky Fried Chicken place today. She's in our county jail.